All right, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It is Monday night. It is 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and it is the day after Sunday, which means it is time for the MMR, the Monday Message Recall. It is the time that we come online to share with you and recap the sermon that was delivered this past Sunday at the Southside Church of Christ in Durham, North Carolina, 800 Elmira Avenue. And if you're not in town, that's all right. You can catch us online on YouTube and also on Facebook. And hey, if you're looking for a spiritual community to be part of, to be able to have these communications and this type of conversation, if you want somebody to walk with you as you strengthen your relationship with Christ, if you're at a distance and you can't and you haven't found a church home in your area, you are welcome to join us at SouthsideEW.com. That is the online community of the Southside Church of Christ, and you are welcome to come and be a part of the journey there. And I am John Merriweather, the online minister for the Southside Everywhere campus. And I know I've been away for a little while. I was going through some health challenges, but the Lord is good. The Lord is sovereign. And He's blessed me to get back on my feet. And so we are back in the house once more and again to pick up where we left off. We're going to act like we've never been gone. So we're back in swing again. So we're back here and we're doing a little bit different from the desk. But hey, we're still here and we're here to be able to share this word with you on tonight. And I am joined by my lovely wife.
Hello, Denise Merriweather here. I am the campus director of the Southside Church of Christ, Southside Everywhere virtual campus. Okay, so look, if y'all familiar with what we do here, y'all already know what we do. Let's go ahead and get the script. The script from Sunday was Psalms 40 verses 1 through 3. For those of you who took copious notes, can you please drop in the chat the title or the subject of the sermon? Hey, family. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? I see here it says, John, it's good to see you, bro. I don't know who the Facebook user is. I can't see it, but I don't know. I saw Christy give Brother O a shout out, so maybe it's Brother O. But look, that should have given you guys a time to get to Psalms 40 verses 1 through 3. For those of you who took notes, put it in the chat. What was the subject on this past Sunday of the sermon? If you have that, put that in the chat. I'm going to give John an opportunity to get his scripture pulled up. You know, he might be a little rusty, so we want to give him some time, make sure he get acclimated back to this space and the things that we do for the MMR. John, if you ready, tell me that you're ready. But if you're not ready, tell me to hold on. Tell me to hold on.
Hey, I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. We back up in here. Look, the scripture is Psalms chapter 40, verse 1 through verse 3. If you got it, say, I got it. If you need some time, go ahead and say, wait, we're going to let you catch up, though, because we got to keep this running. We only got 30 minutes. And as we always say, hey, just in case somebody didn't have a chance to attend service, go ahead and share this on Facebook, share it on YouTube, because we know your friends and them, they may have been caught up, they may have been traveling, they may have been on a plane, train, automobile, we don't know, but they may not have had a chance to get the word. So this will give them opportunity to get a word to start their week off right and get them fueled up and energized. So the 40th division of Psalm verse 1 through verse 3, it says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, and even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear and shall trust in the Lord.
Okay, y'all got it. I see that the topic is also dropped in the chat. From the pits to praise, from pits to praise, from pits to praise. Let's put it inside the chat again for those of you who missed it. From the pits to praise. All right, John. So how did we had a guest minister, Nick Glenn, Brother Nick Glenn, Nicholas Glenn came from Sharp Road, Church of Christ, up the street, up the way in Greensboro, North Carolina. So, John, how did he start the message on yesterday?
Well, Brother Glenn opened us up because we're still in the framework, even though he was visiting. Dr. Glenn is not a stranger to us. We know Nick. Nick has been, been, as they say, one by day ones. He's been down from the beginning. And so we just appreciate him. But he shared with us that Southside has a calling. And as we're continuing to walk this path of overcoming, and in particular this month, overcoming failure, he was encouraging us to go ahead and go in it and walk through this and navigate this process of overcoming failure. And he started off by warning us that we as a society, we as a people are inherently impatient. We have lost that godly virtue of patience as we have progressed in status and progressed in technology. It has leaned in and grown that level of impatience within us. He gave some statistics out there, and I'm not going to quote all those statistics, but what he said was, we have become a society that wants it and wants it right now. We will not stand in line at the grocery store anymore. We will either order it online or we will go to the self-checkout. Why? Because we don't have to wait on the cashier to ring that other person up. We can go ahead and do it ourselves. We can go ahead now. We don't want to stay in the traffic jam anymore. We go ahead and we try to use the GPS to find and navigate a route around the traffic jam, which just ends up costing us almost the same amount of time, just more gas. But it gives us the sensation that we're doing something, that we're moving past being just stuck and being at a standstill. And he gave, and sometimes in that moment, we can get beside ourselves and we can forget our manners. We can forget our character. We can become rude. We can become angry. We can become bitter. And he even gave the story of a TSA, dealing with the TSA. There was a couple that was traveling and they wanted to get there early. Why? Because they didn't want to have any run-in with the TSA. And y'all know when you're rushing, if you go ahead and you get underneath that 2-hour window and you don't have that global pass or that TSA pass, and you might run into a little trouble right there. But they went ahead and got there early, and they were going through, and everybody was polite, and they was polite, and they were able to interact with everybody on a good level. But TSA asked them to step to the side. And long story short, they let everybody else board, and then at the end, when all the seats were taken, they started wondering what was going on, and they said the TSA agent came up to them and was like, "Look, we know that you got here extra early, but there was an issue with your reservation. And because of that, we want to pull you to the side. But we went ahead and we worked it out. And since you've been so polite and you've been so patient, we went ahead and we upgraded you. We upgraded you to first class with no additional cost. We brought you from the back of the plane next to the bathrooms all the way up to the front row seat. I see you, Sister Graham. That's right. Gave them a first class seat. And what Brother Glenn was showing us in that illustration is sometimes our impatience is causing us to miss out on first class blessings that God has in store for us. So we have to learn and go through this idea of being patient so that we can have the blessings that that God has set up for us. He said, many of us want a first-class blessing, but we have a coach mentality, and we don't want to be guilty of that. And so that's how he started that conversation and brought us to the lesson that he preached on this Sunday.
Okay, he also mentioned, which was so credible for David, was that David was a man who would admit when he was going through something. He was open, he was transparent, he was authentic, and he appreciated it, because these days we tend to hide what it is that we're going through. We tend to not want people to see that we struggle, that we fall, that we make mistakes, that sometimes we're not always strong, right? All the people out there, check on your strong friends. They be y'all to check on them, right? That we're not always strong, that sometimes we need help and we're in position or life has us in positions and situations where we have ups and downs, good times and bad times, good days and bad days. And what he showed us in this passage was that David was in a situation where he was going through. But do y'all know that it's all about the attitude? Put it in the chat. It's all about your attitude. It's all about your attitude. So, John, what did he start sharing? I know he had flipped the verses and told us to go to 2 instead of 1. So how did he lead us through this conversation about from the pits to praise?
So what he shared with us is that in this text that David's in a bad spot. It says that he is in the pit, and what he drew from this text was that the pit is synonymous with the being close to death, being close to a situation where you don't know that you're going to make it out of. It is when you're at your wit's end and you're in a predicament that is overpowering you, and you don't know if you're going to make it to the other side or not. And so what he wanted to draw out is that this is the lowest point in David's life. And so he wanted us to understand that as we look at failure, we have all been in a place of a pit. Some of us have financial pits. Some of us have relational pits. Some of us have self-esteem pits. But it's the lowest point when you don't know if you're going to recover and come out. And what he said is that, and some of us had a health pit. I just come out of a health pit. I have mercy. But the whole thing is, when you're at that pit, when you're in that pit, do you let the pit affect your mentality, or do you let your mentality affect your pit? And what he was sharing with us is that he flipped the verses, like, because the second verse tells you what he was going through. The first verse tells you the reaction, and oftentimes, but here he tells us the reaction first, and then what he was going through secondly. And so what he said is that, what David said, he's like, I waited. In the first verse, he says, I waited on the Lord. But the whole thing is, when you look at that phrase, when he says patiently waited, when you look at it in the Hebrew, it actually comes from the word kavah, and it says kavah, kavah. It means while I was waiting, I waited. While I was waiting, I waited. And so what you mean, David? What do you mean by that? He says, where I was in the pit, where I couldn't do anything, when I was in a situation, I was waiting to come out of the situation, but I was waiting on God. And he says that sometimes many of us don't know and can't experience supernatural breakthroughs because we have a Mrs. Job mentality. We have a mentality of, I want to get it over with. I want to push through it. I want to go ahead and get it done. And so since I want to get it done, and while I want to rush it, I want to just go ahead and tell God what to do. And what Miss Job told Mr. Job was, why don't you go ahead and curse God and die? Get your life over with. And sometimes when we try to rush the hands of God, we miss the blessing of God. So we have to be willing to wait, not just for waiting's sake, but we have to wait with the expectation that God is going to show up and God is going to work this thing out on my behalf, and have the courage to patiently wait for the ending. It's not that I'm expecting this thing to go bad. I'm expecting God to show up. I'm looking forward to better.
So here's the understanding that I gained too from what he was sharing with us, is that sometimes we tend to find ourselves in situations where we quit too soon. Like, we start trying to tread a different path. Some people I think it's, no, I ain't going to say that. I was going to say maybe it's some form of schizophrenia, where you kind of just all over, or all over the place, keep switching directions, keep changing your mind. And you know what scriptures talks about you going to and fro and being blown by the winds of life, because life be life, and put that in the chat, life be life. But what he encouraged us was to stick and stay expecting, again, that God is going to actually work out the situation and take you from where you are to the place where you're destined to be. But don't give up too soon. Don't turn away. Just like John said, don't rush the process, because the process is for a reason. And he pointed out that sometimes when we're in our deep, dark place, we tend to want to adopt it. And he said, no. Don't adopt where you are. Don't take it as a new way of living. Don't take it as I'm stuck here forever. No. Just adapt, right? It's when the scripture speaks about us being content, right? Here is an opportunity for you to be content where you are. Like, you can adapt to where you are, but continue to have your faith, knowing that I ain't about to adopt this. This ain't going to be the way of life. I ain't going to sit here and come up with strategies on how to be here forever. Nope. I'm going to adapt to the season that I'm in, but I'm not going to adopt it. I'm going to manage to make it through. I'm going to keep my faith. I'm going to expect what God is going to bring. I'm going to manage my attitude. I'm going to manage my feelings. I'm going to manage my thoughts, because here's what I've learned, and here's what I'm learning. And some of you can attest to that. You get what you believe. Put it in the chat. You get what you believe. And why is that? Because your actions is going to align with what you believe in your mind. See, the adapting and the adopting, the believing or the not believing, the expecting versus not expecting, settling, right? Either you're expecting greater or you're settling for what it is that you're in now, but you get what you believe. It ain't no, I'm going to be delivered if you don't believe you're going to be delivered. No, you're just going to sit there until your faith matches where your future is going to be. So when you get that, whatever it is that I'm saying to myself in my mind, which is what I believe, and my actions is going to correlate with what I believe. So if you don't believe that God is going to make a way, if you don't believe that he's ever going to bring you out, your actions is going to align with, I'm going to learn how to be comfortable and stay here. I'm going to deal with this for the rest of my life. I don't see no way out. It's no way that he's going to bring me out this pit. There's no way and no reason for me to praise, because now my life has changed forever and I'll never be able to see that brighter side or that better end. No, you might not know how he's going to do it. You might not know what the full picture looks like, but you can definitely believe that he's going to bring you out and expect that he will, in fact, bring you out.
Because David had the mentality of David understood that the pit is temporary. The pit is temporary, and that goes hand in hand with failure, because failure is not final. Failure is a temporary state. Failure is a process of learning. You do not learn sometimes unless you fail. You've learned. Failure is a process of elimination. You eliminate a method that did not work, and that is progress, because you know not to try that. You know not to do that. That's why so many experiments or so many inventions have come about, because the inventor found several ways that did not work, but they finally came across a way that did. And what we have to understand is that even though we may be in a pit right now, what we're finding out is a way that may not be working, but that is leading us to a way that works. And oftentimes the pit comes because we tried something our own way and we ventured off of God's way. And this is a way of learning that God's way will work, because when you're in the pit, you start not to rely on yourself as much, and you start to pay attention to what God has told you, what God is telling you, or you wait in expectation for God to tell you what to do. And so you understand that God's grace, it is a learning tool. The pit is a learning tool for us to understand that God's grace is all powerful. God's grace is all sufficient, and it is enabling. And that's what he showed us as he navigated through this verse. He says, while I waited, while I was in this position of waiting on God, God inclined, God stooped down, God gave his attention. He turned to me, he bent down, and he stretched himself to reach where I was at. Some of us try to work our way out of certain situations, and we find and we grow frustrated that we can't do it. And that's because some situations it's only God can get us out of. So we have to be patient and wait for God to show up. And because we are waiting on him, he will do just what he says. And this is one thing I like, is that he compared it to being in quicksand. And if any of you have grown up around quicksand or grown up with an understanding of quicksand and how it operates, the more you struggle in quicksand, the faster you sink, because it will suck you in. Your energy, your movement is actually working against you. And life can be just like that. Our actions can move against us, but if we stop struggling, if we stay steady, if we stay still and know that he is God, that he will show up and that he will never leave us, he will never forsake us, he will pull us out, he will bring us out, and he will bring us out in a way that we couldn't do for ourselves. And when he brings us out, he doesn't expect, and here's the thing, he doesn't expect for us to stand on our own. What he does is he brings stability. He placed David on a rock. He put him on a firm foundation. Why? Because he knew that David wasn't strong enough to go through and make it on his own yet. And so he allowed David to get his foot. But to get his foot, he realized that he needed something solid to stand upon. And some of us are so busy standing on our own understanding, standing on our own finances, standing on our own love, standing on our own opinion on ourselves. But when we start to depend on God to be our source, when we start to depend on the love that God has for us, we don't need that other relationship. We can stand and be assured that we know that somebody accepts us just as we are. When we depend on God for our provision, we may not know how our ends are going to meet, but we know that he will open the door and bless us anyway. When we go ahead and we stand with God to bring us out, he will not only put us on a firm foundation, but he will order our steps. We don't have to figure it out. We may not know, in our intelligence, we are limited, but God will, as they say, as the mighty men say, show me the way. He will lead our steps, as Crystal Carter sings. He will order our steps. He will show us and give us a path, give us the direction so that we can get back on the right track.
That led us to God putting a new song on his mouth. And he talked about it, meaning that for some of us, the situations that we go through are unique. They are unique to our experience in life. And sometimes when we go through these different situations and circumstances, God gives us a new testimony, a new thing, because he's doing a new thing in our life and has given us a story, a testimony to share with other people. But here's what he also distinguished about the song. He said it was a song, a new song, and also a song of praise. He said there is a difference between giving God praise and giving him thanksgiving. He said, when you are thankful for something that God has done, you are thanking him for what you've already experienced. But when you give God praise, when you render praise unto God, you are actually praising him for the things that you have not even encountered yet. You don't know what your next trial is going to be. You don't know your next pit that you will fall in, because he made that clear too. Yeah, you're going to fall again. You're going to make another mistake. You're going to have some more ups and downs. But when you have a song of praise, you begin to praise God for the things you don't even know that he's going to deliver you from. So how many of you right now have a song of praise where you're praising God for something he has not done yet? Again, it speaks to the expectation. It speaks to you knowing the relationship of God, how he feels about you, how he sees you, how he stands with you, how he stands for you, how he bends down and reaches towards you. Like, you have a clear understanding that no matter what it is that I go through, no matter what it is that I face, no matter what it is that someone may say or bad news that may come my way, my song of praise ensures me that God will not only bring me through, but he will rise me from this pit and place my feet on a solid rock to stand, so I can continue to give him praise and give him thanksgiving for what he has done. All right, John. So how we going to wrap this up for tonight? We got 4 minutes.
All right, 4 good minutes. Here we go. Here's how we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to put you on the double dog, triple dog dare you. I'm going to triple dog dare you on tonight. And what I mean by that is that Brother Glenn ended. He said, I dare you to start taking God at his word, because that's what separated David from other people that fell in the pit. David fell on hard times, but he did not give up on God. He rested on the promises of God. And so Brother Glenn, Dr. Glenn said, hey, I dare you to take God at his word. He says, you got to look at it like this, that the pit is not your end. The pit is your waiting room. You're waiting to be called up to deliverance. And so we have to operate with that mentality. We got to expect that God is going to call us out of the pit. So the second dare is to expect it. You got to change. We got to change our mentality. We got to change and we got to say that I can't see my way out, but that's where my faith is operating, because my faith operates when my sight doesn't. Because faith is the substance of things hoped for, is the evidence of things not seen. We walk by faith and not by sight. So you got to faith your walk out of the pit, because God is going to show up and help you out. And then also you got to go ahead and acknowledge and go in and think, what am I blocking in my life because I'm not taking God at his word? Am I blocking my next job opportunity? Am I blocking my health recovery? Am I blocking my relationship healing because I'm not trusting in God? I'm reading all these other books and taking all this online advice and all this TV advice. But the best advice I could get in this situation in my life is the advice that God is freely given by the opportunity in his word. Because sometimes God won't give the opportunity because we're not giving God the opportunity to be God. And so we need to evaluate our lives and see, where do we need to relinquish control and let God be God, and let me be the believer and believe that he'll do just what he said. So that's the triple dot dare you on tonight. Are you taking God at his word? Are you expecting to come out of the pit? And do you want to go ahead? Will you go ahead and look over your life to see where you're preventing God from doing his thing and you submitting to his word, his will? That's it. That's all I got. I'm hungry. I'm ready to go eat. That's it. That's all I got. Y'all didn't work me hard.
Well, welcome back, babe. So happy to be sharing this space with you. May God continue to heal you, to bless you, to help you recover, to help you get your strength and everything that you need to continue to do this walk and to be the minister of this amazing community. So listen, thank you, Christy. She dropped the link inside of the chat. Brother Glenn had invited the men to a men's conference workshop. The link is there. It's for the brothers. Click it if you want additional information. We definitely want to support each other, definitely when it comes to the work of God. So if you can be there to support them, go take a look at the website. Not sure if it's just in person or it's virtual, but just get more information so you can make a sound decision on whether or not it's a place where you need to be. I believe it's coming up at the end of the month. I think maybe somewhere between the 24th to 26th, somewhere around there, if memory serves me right, but it's coming.
26th through 28th.
The 26th through the 28th. So you don't want to miss the opportunity to be a part of that amazing conversation. I know that Brother Daniels will be there. I know that there's some others will be there. If you can be there and support the work and to get something for yourself, because I think it's always important that you know why you're going, where you're going, that you have expectation, because we talked about that tonight, that you have expectation of what it is that you want to receive, and you also are clear on what your contribution is going to be when you get there. Did you get it? First, you always want to know why you're moving the way you're moving, why you're going where you're going. You want to always know what you're expecting, have an idea of what you're looking for, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't know that you have it when you receive it. And the contribution that you're going to make when you get to the space, because we're all here for one another. So be willing to share yourself, to share your testimony, to share your stories. Okay, y'all. So look, we back here next week, same back channel. We're here at the Southside Church of Christ page on Facebook. You can catch us on Southside YouTube page, or also inside of the community, Southside Everywhere. We're going to drop the link again. It's www.southsideew.com. That will give you an opportunity to click to join the community, reach out to us, answer the questions, and then you're in. We have amazing content and amazing things for you to look forward to. Definitely, you can reach out to us. We have a meet and greet that's coming up this Friday, the 19th at 7:00 p.m. Be there or be square. We'll be inside of the Zoom room, and we'll also be broadcasting live inside of the group. So look, y'all, join us back here. If you want to worship with us at the Southside Church of Christ, we're located 800 Elmira Avenue, Durham, North Carolina. Worship begins at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays, and midweek Bible study. You can join us either on YouTube, Facebook, or in person at that same address at 7:00 p.m. Look, always looking forward to serving you. We love you. We'll see you here next Monday for the Monday Message Recall, 7:00 p.m. We love you guys.